One of the first things we wanted to touch on are some principles that frequently come up during, they influence our thinking. They influence how we function, how we approach our jobs on a daily basis. We developed these growth principles, if you will, back in 2008. When we were talking as a staff and we basically sat down and just had a discussion of, what is it that we like where we're going as a town and the direction that we're heading in. What core principles have we been following over the last several years? And we've tried to identify some of those here. They're more tangible in nature. There's some things, before I get into these, leadership, vision, staying committed to that vision. Those are intangibles. They're not necessarily listed here, but those are key as well. But these we feel like are a little bit more tangible, and a lot of these projects that we'll be discussing as we go through the presentation, I will be referring some to these principles or to these particular themes. You can read for yourself what some of these are, and I'll touch on them briefly. I really feel like at this stage of the town's development, probably two of the most important principles are our managed growth, our approach to managed growth, because we are a rapidly growing community, and we really have to understand in order to preserve the character of the community and in some ways enhance the quality of life in our community and improve the level of service that we're providing. Because we are a service provider, we have to manage our growth effectively. So that's something that we constantly talk about, how to preserve what we have and in some ways make it better. The other big piece, and perhaps even more important at this stage of the town's development, is its investment, the level of investment. We've talked some about this at retreats, about we know that there's an interest in people moving into Holly Springs. We understand the importance of growth from an economical standpoint. Investment and growth in our community gives us an opportunity to continue to provide the same level of service, in some cases a better level of services, while keeping your taxes at a reasonable level. But that can only be done if we're investing in our infrastructure and investing in our future so that we can accommodate that growth. The town has taken on a lot of debt. 4 to 8 years ago, the town made a couple major investments in its future. It invested roughly $26 million in its wastewater treatment facility. We went from a small package plant of about 1.2 or 1.5 million gallons per day to where now we can treat up to 6 million gallons per day, and that will meet our wastewater treatment needs for really through 2030. So we're really well positioned to accommodate that additional growth. We also made a $14 million investment in our water. We purchased water from Harnett County. We purchased water capacity from Harnett County. We now have the ability to get 10 million gallons of water per day to meet our water needs well into the future. So we're positioned probably as well as any town in Wake County currently, certainly our size, for both water and wastewater. We also made investments when we were able to bring, Novartis decided to come here. We made investments in our road infrastructure, Green Oaks Parkway. The town committed to making an investment there as well, which is actually a road that connects New Hill Road to the bypass, and it also runs right through our business park, which really enhances our ability to attract other businesses. So we've made a sizable investment in the town's infrastructure. And we'll talk some more about investment as we move forward. That's probably a common theme on virtually every slide that we'll have moving forward. But just a little bit about the town's debt and where we're at presently. We have an independent audit that's performed every year, and the town's available debt, the amount of money that it could borrow versus actually what it has borrowed, we're at about 18% of that. So in other words, if we had a $10,000 line of credit, for example, we borrowed about $1,800 on that $10,000 line of credit. That's based on the total tax base of the town you can borrow up to 8% of the total tax base of the town. And 8% of $3.5 billion is where we're coming up with that figure. Let's put that I guess, say it another way. That's sort of a snapshot of where we're at today, 18%. But we wanted to look back, which is a great reason we like doing these types of events, is we do a lot of research, and it takes us places sometimes we don't even anticipate. We went back to 1997, when the town was far smaller, when it was 90% residential. We were at close to 60% of our debt capacity at that point in time. Now, that's not to say we had more money outstanding that we owed then, but we were a much smaller community. What has happened is we've invested in our future, and the rate of growth has grown at a much more rapid rate, if you will, than the amount of money that we owe. So we're trending in a very positive direction. So I did want to point that out, because a lot of the projects that we're doing are continued investments, and that's part of that vision that we have to develop this town, and staying committed to that. So that's two of the rings that you'll see. Another one is partnerships. Partnerships, very broadly defined in Holly Springs, It can be relationships with federal government, state government, with local organizations within the community, such as the chamber. It can be partnerships with Wake County, with private sector investors. We're engaged in. You're actually sitting in an example of a partnership. This is this building would probably not be here had Wake County and Holly Springs not gotten together. Holly Springs, in order to get placed on, I guess, the top of the list for a new library. We really wanted a library about, I guess it was around 2001, Jenny? Is that about right? 2001, 2002? For the library. The town owned the property where this facility's at. The town gave the property to Wake County. In exchange for that, Wake County, we jumped up to number one on the library list. Well, we wanted to do more than just have a library. We wanted, we saw opportunity to do something together and have a cultural arts center, and it's worked out really well. Since it's been built, I think this is the highest. This particular branch library has the highest attendance of any library in Wake County. So it's just one example of a success. And I think Lynn Bradley, who's our Parks and Recreation Director, just pointed out today, just in the cultural center alone, in the theater, the events that we have ticket sales for, I think we'd reached $40,000 already. And the tickets only went on sale, what about? Excuse me? The 23rd of August. So in just a little over a month, we've already had $40,000 in ticket sales. It's really an amazing story. So partnerships are very big. Certainly innovation is something that's also a recurring theme as well, and we'll touch on that. I think the term innovation sort of speaks for itself, but we have a couple of projects that we'll talk about that really emphasize that as well. We like to pride ourselves on being a cutting-edge community when it comes to innovation. Finally, the economy. The economy, when you think economy, you're thinking jobs, you're thinking the ability to, in a sustainable community, you need to have a strong, vibrant economy so that your growth continues, job growth, and quality of life. So those are our 5 principles that we'll be talking about moving forward. And I promise you we'll move faster. All right, population estimate. This is one of our managed growth slides. And you can see where we're at currently. In 2013, we're at about 28,000, our population. And you can see we're experiencing pretty steady growth. And what we're anticipating here moving forward, if you'll see the green bars, is we've averaged over the last 7-8 years a little over 400 new homes a month, or a year, excuse me. We would have some issues if it's 400 a month. 400 a year. We're estimating that trend to continue. And also, we have a small number or a couple apartment complexes that will be coming online. And the ones that we know are coming, we've estimated the impact also on the population. For example, in 2014, we got Pecan Grove Apartments. Some of those will be coming online. And also we have Hollywood's Apartments, which we anticipate coming online. And then in 2015, we have some more coming online from, actually that's Woods at Avent Ferry in 2014 that are coming online. 2015, we have some more Pecan Grove Apartments coming online, as well as the Hollywood's Apartments, which are just off of Laster, Holly Springs and Sunset Lake Road. But that sort of shows you where, the population trend is heading. And that's based on the most recent 2010 census too. Okay. All right, and this just speaks to what I had mentioned earlier. We're at about 310 building permits this particular year through the month of August. We're projecting maybe around 465, but when you really go back to 2005 and you take an average, we're at around a little over 425 homes, 427 homes on average. So one of the things we try to do is conservatively estimate, when we put together projections, whether it be financial projections, population projections, and that's what we've done here. And this speaks to the tax base change, and this relates to some of the comments I was making earlier about our debt and our ratio of debt and our ability to borrow. And you'll see a couple interesting things here. Continued growth in our tax base, which correlates to the continued investment in our community. Homes are being built, commercial development is occurring. And also you'll notice, for example, in 2002, and I may be standing in some folks' way, our residential to non-residential ratio was 90% residential, 10% non-residential. We really wanted to strike a better balance because if we could get more non-residential in our tax base, those types of developments don't typically require as much in terms of municipal services, and that translates to, it gives us more flexibility in keeping tax rates down on those of us that are residents here in Holly Springs. So you can see where we're at now at about 79% residential, and that number's probably going to stay pretty steady because we have some continued commercial investment, but we also have the residential investment that goes along with it. This is a project which really addresses a number of our development principles. It's a partnership. It's a partnership with the state. It also certainly represents an investment and also speaks to the managed growth philosophy of the town. This is the Main Street Extension project, which I think all of us that live in Holly Springs recognize that, at certain periods of time during the day, one of our major congestion locations is along Avent Ferry Road. We were able to secure money to extend Main Street essentially to where it connects directly, bless you, with Piney Grove Wilburn. And because of that, this project qualifies as a regional project. So there was some money that we were able to secure, about $6.5 million, I believe, to go toward this project. It's roughly an 80-20 match, 80% grant, and the town would pay make the 20% match. So the net result of this is, in order for us to qualify, this was a very competitive grant. We were competing with other towns in our region and cities. We had to get support from cities or towns outside of our community. And we got support from Fuquay, for example. They were very supportive. Also some towns in Harnett County, such as Anger, because there's quite a bit of traffic that comes through, commuter traffic that comes through Holly Springs in the morning, accessing Piney Grove Wilburn, then they get onto Avent Ferry Road en route to wherever they're going. They're getting on the bypass. Once this road is completed, it'll take about 30% of the traffic off of Avent Ferry between Piney Grove Wilburn and the bypass. So that'll help a little bit with that congestion. It's not going to totally relieve it, but it's certainly going to help it. Before I go to the next slide, we don't have a slide, wish we could, wish we had it, about a major project coming that would really help with the Avent Ferry Road congestion situation. When I speak of the Avent Ferry Road congestion, I'm talking about primarily between the bypass and Holly Springs High School, Holly Grove Elementary and Middle School particularly. This has been, I know the engineering staff, since I've been working in 2001, our efforts have really picked up with the state to get some assistance to widen and improve that road, because we understand that it is a major source of congestion, and it's also an evacuation route for the town. We have secured a grant, if you will, to begin design for road improvements along Avent Ferry Road between the bypass and Piney Grove Wilburn. It's about a $144,000 grant. I believe that might be going to the council at the next meeting in October, which is October 1st or 2nd, next week. But that only covers the design. We've got to convince the state that we need some additional assistance so we can actually get some construction money. We've looked internally, we've done some estimates. To widen Avent Ferry Road will cost roughly, as much as $8 million, possibly more, to widen it out to the school, 4-lane, widen it. So we've got to get some assistance. We can't do that on our own. It's a state road. We should not have to do it on our own. But we're in constant contact with the state about this. It's an issue. We're trying to define the problem and trying to identify some solutions to it. Another thing that we're doing, along Avent Ferry, we are currently looking at ways to modify the signal at the bypass, at that intersection, Avent Ferry and the bypass, to move traffic a little more efficiently. And DOT has offered verbally to assist us with that. So if we're looking at hiring a consultant, a traffic expert or traffic consultant to identify some possible changes, and then DOT will pay to implement those changes, hopefully. That's certainly that's what the goal is. Main Street extension, which we've already discussed, that will be under construction in a couple years. Right now we're in the process, I guess, of final design and also land acquisition for that particular project, and you'll see it under construction between 2015 and 2016. Another road project that we are able to undertake due to the support we've had from members of the General Assembly, Senator Behringer and Representative Nelson Dollar, they've been very supportive, is a road extension in the business park. When Holly Springs Town Center was developed, along New Hill Road there was a median installed, and I'm sure you've noticed that, and it created a right-in, right-out in the business park along Irving Highway. So that's limited access to the business park, and that's impacted our businesses. So we proposed to the General Assembly, members of the General Assembly, if we could get some money to help, economic development money, if you will, to help our business park, and we were able to secure $400,000 toward extension of a road off of Thomas Mill, which will intersect with Old Apex Holly Springs Road, and that'll be a full access entrance. So then there'll be 3 full access entrances into our business park. So we were able to secure funding for that. Once again, that's a different pot of money. We've gotten money for a regional project. We've gotten money for an economic development project. Okay, sort of shifting gears, but still related to transportation. Wanted to talk a little bit about some of the work that we're doing along, throughout town with regard to sidewalks. Right now, along West Holly Springs Road, if you drive down, you'll see that there's a sidewalk project underway. That'll be this area right here, Section 1. Section 2 here is Sunset Lake Road. We have a sidewalk going, I believe, from Kenmont to the shopping center. So those are 2 projects that we have funded. We have, we actually, before I go into some of these other projects, we also have, I believe this next council meeting, on an annual basis, we go to the council with sidewalk capital improvement projects. So we'll be coming forward with a couple projects that, as of this moment, we don't necessarily have funding in place for. A couple that come to mind are Grigsby Street. Also, I think in Windward Point, Avent Ferry also comes to mind, a sidewalk, particularly along the southern end of town, close to where Rex Hospital is. Area 3, that is the Bass Lake Pedestrian Bridge, which once it's completed, and it should be completed in next year, 2014, once that's completed, and we can speak a little bit more on that in a moment, it will essentially complete the loop around Bass Lake. And number 4, this section right here, this is Womble Park. This is a greenway. This is a bond project that we'll talk about. It's about 1.5 mile long paved greenway which runs from Womble Park along the southern edge of Sugg Farm, which is also town property, and it connects to the Bass Lake Park. It's a paved path. It's going to be bike and pedestrian. It's wide enough, so we're really excited about that because it connects 3 of our major parks. And that's a bond project. Womble Park improvements, I'm just identifying where those are, and we'll talk about those in a few minutes. Sugg Farm, of course, that's 117 acres that we purchased through our bond. We'll talk some more about that in a moment as well. Finally, 7 is Jones Park. We've also identified made some improvements there. North Main Athletic Complex, which we'll talk about shortly. And down here, this is a school campus. Technically, it's not a town park, but we have a joint use agreement with Wake County, one of those partnerships that we talked about, to where we have access to their high school baseball field, their softball fields, their multi-purpose field down there, also their tennis courts, because currently the town has no tennis courts. Of course, that's about to change as we have plans for tennis courts on not 1 but 2 of our parks. And this is a Bass Lake Pedestrian Bridge we had talked about. This is a rendering based on the design for that particular bridge, which will be at Bass Lake. We'd actually planned on, quite honestly, having that completed earlier, probably by the end of this calendar year. But when we put the bids out, initially we didn't get any bids, to our surprise. Typically on construction projects we get a lot of bids, but maybe due to the special nature of this, we're just not getting as many bids. So we had to rebid it. And the second time around, we got 2 bids, but the bids were rather high, so we're going to renegotiate, or not really renegotiate, sit down with the contractor and see if there's some ways that we can, adjust that price to where it's more economical. So right now, as it stands, we're looking at probably the first or second quarter of 2014 to get that project completed, but it's definitely one that's a priority with us. This would be paid for out of the as it stands, probably Parks and Recreation Reserve monies. Okay, and this is one of those investment core principles, as well as it's an example of a number of partnerships and our approach to manage growth in our community. So let's talk just a little bit about the bond projects. The Parks and Recreation bond referendum passed 2 years ago. It was a $20 million bond referendum. To date, the town has issued a little over $12 million in bonds. And with that, we would like to share with you some of the projects that we have underway. I guess the first one, I've already touched on it, is the Sugg Farm. We acquired 117 acres. Sugg Farm, which is located between Womble Park and Bass Lake. It's in a conservation easement, so we're limited in what types of activities and what types of improvements on the farm. But it's a beautiful piece of property. I know folks that have visited it. Can I have a show of hands of folks that have actually been down there? So most of you, a lot of you have been there. We're having more town events there. I know we had the 5th of July fireworks event at Sugg Farm. We're planning to have Holly Fest down there. I think we had Dog Days at the Park down there this past weekend. So we're going to have more and more events down there. But we had a steering committee, I believe, made up of 42 to 45 people, and they've come up with a master plan of ideas for possible uses of that particular park. Yes, sir. Did you have a question?
Just a question about the Sugg Farm
yes.
Park. Are there any plans? I know you said it's in a conservation area, but obviously there's some challenges getting in and out of there right now with basically one entrance coming in and 2 lanes, one in, one out, which sort of steered me away on the 5th. I went over to Walmart. Are there any plans for possibly expanding entrances, or is there another way that they'll be able to get in and out to kind of ease some of the traffic going back there?
Yeah, yes, there is. Actually, I believe it is. Is it this coming agenda? We have we have a contract. We put a bid out to widen that road going in there, and we're limited because of that conservation easement and how wide that road can be and we're also limited. And we're fine with this on how much impervious surface we can put there. But one of the requirements that we had before we agreed to purchase the properties, we had to be able to get, our public safety vehicles in there, and we had to be able to widen that, because right now it's essentially a private drive, one-lane private drive, and you're exactly right, it's just not suitable. So yeah, that's going to be addressed. And one of the things we noticed with the 5th of July celebration, because everyone got there, maybe not got there at the same time, but everybody left about the same time. There was a lot of pedestrian traffic there, and it slowed traffic, and it was also a little bit of a dangerous situation. So we're trying to alleviate that. So we're also looking at putting, I guess, a mulch path there, Lynn, which will be parallel to that widened road, so that we'll have pedestrians off of the road, and we'll have certain areas for crosswalks, and we'll have people there to let folks cross. So we're going to do a lot better job with that moving forward. We're just excited about that property and wanted to get folks out there so that they could see it back in during the 5th of July. And of course, with the activity going on at Womble Park, the construction activity, we needed to find an alternative site for it. So you see pictures here on the right side. On the left side, you'll see Jones Park, and this is playground equipment that's set up in these two pods. Currently, as it stands right now, Jones Park, or heretofore, Jones Park had no playground equipment, had the nice baseball facility, but that some of the smaller children that weren't participating in, a recreation event, they really had to go on the school property, to maybe find the closest playground area. This is a bond project. This is being paid for by a Parks and Recreation bond. Back in this area here is going to be an 18-hole Frisbee golf course, and also a Frisbee golf putting green. So I'm really interested in seeing what that looks like. That's pretty cool. So moving on, maybe. Here we go. The Womble Park expansion, this is a shot, I think, from our ladder truck, maybe. We took it recently. This is at this point, it's probably our most capital-intensive bond project. We will have, once we're completed, we'll have 3 high school size synthetic turf soccer fields, which will be lighted, along with 1 adult tennis court and 2 youth courts at this particular facility. Now, one question that's been raised, and I just wanted to touch on this, it's been brought up during meetings on occasion, is why we're fencing that particular facility in. And we wanted to, as part of the public education process, it's great to have synthetic turf fields because we probably get about 3 times the capacity to play and have events on those, and it also greatly reduces our maintenance cost. But people might let, if they let their pets run out there on the field, those synthetic turf fields, they don't respond real well to dogs. Okay, and I think you know where I'm heading there. And also, soft drinks. It's just really difficult, if people, it can do some damage to the field. So I guess the best analogy that Lynn shared with me is we look at these facilities just like we do a gym. I mean, we have to, we're going to have public access to them, but we need to have a staff member there, so that we can protect the town's investment, protect your investment. So that's what we're looking at. We will have times scheduled when the public can access those fields, when there aren't programs. You just want to go out and kick a soccer ball, we're going to do that. So we're working on that schedule right now. We'll have this, that'll be available on this at the Womble Park facility, and also the the new North Main Athletic Complex facility. What's not going to change is, who's familiar with the area we call the pit? Okay, it's those ball fields down below Stinson, those soccer fields. Those are essentially, where you can take the steps and go down right next to the Hunt Center. Those essentially will remain open to the public. And, we'll continue to maintain those. So, folks that like to go down on a Sunday afternoon and, and have a pickup soccer match or whatever, they can continue to do that. Womble Park Greenway, we talked about that just a minute ago. That should be completed later this year. It's a 1.5 mile greenway, pedestrian and bike path, which connects Womble Park to Bass Lake. Parks and Recreation Bond Project. This one here, North Main Athletic Complex. I may have to spend a little bit of time on this one. This is 42 acres of land that just, I guess a year ago, Wake County owned, less than a year ago. Whoops, excuse me. Right across the street here was their 400+ acre landfill, which is going to be with us into perpetuity. This area, they had always planned, it was about 60, I think 65 acres, had always been planned for a mining operation or a borrow pit. So I know when Carl was here, it was always his dream, if you will, or he was always committed. And one thing that we all know about Carl, those of us that worked with him, when he had his mind made up, you know, he stayed committed to something. And he was committed to making sure this didn't become a borrow pit on Main Street. So we were able to work with the county, to partner with the county, and purchase 42 acres of this property, which really runs along an existing stream right here. Okay, so we were able to acquire this money, or acquire this land, and it's partially, some of these improvements that we have here, we'll be able to fund with our bond proceeds, and I'll talk a little bit about those. Phase 1, which we speak to right here, are the two, I guess, high school size synthetic turf lighted soccer fields. Those are included here. That's paid for by the Parks and Recreation bond money. And then here you have the 8 adult tennis courts along with 4 youth courts. This is really in response, I know when we were doing the bond, getting information out on the bond referendum, we got a lot of feedback. The couple things that kept recurring was we need more tennis courts, or we need tennis courts in Holly Springs. So once we're finished with phase 1 of this project, we'll have 8 adult courts here. Then we'll have the 1 adult court at Womble Park. And in addition to that, we have the joint use agreement with the high school, which I didn't mention earlier. We have access to those tennis courts now. This will enable us to, I think the Western Wake Tennis Association has expressed some interest in hosting some tournaments here because of the number of tennis courts that we have. So we're really excited about that. So phase 1 is being paid for by Parks and Recreation bond monies. Now, what I didn't mention is any restrooms or concession for these particular facilities. So we've got to address that, obviously. Phase 2 helps to address that. Phase 2, if you will, is what we'll call the multi-purpose stadium project. I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard about that. This is being partially funded by bond for the restroom and concession areas. And then I think about $1.5 million of bond money to go toward the recreation or the concession and restroom areas. And then what remains after that will go toward the synthetic turf and some of the lighting for that particular facility, because this multi-purpose stadium, if you will, is going to be used 75% of the time by Parks and Recreation. We've got our football program, which we're planning to have an 8-man football program that's totally local. This will be their new home. This will be where the kids practice. This will be where the kids play on the weekend. They won't have to travel. This is also a facility that will be available to be rented or utilized by outside groups that are interested in, that might have a travel baseball, travel soccer, travel lacrosse team. These facilities are also available for rental as well. So there's a big recreation benefit to this. This is how this project started. But one of the innovative things, one of the neat things about this project, without that stadium, you just got a really nice athletic park, similar to what we have in Womble. With this stadium, in addition to the Parks and Recreation benefits, you have some economic development benefits. And we'd like to talk a little bit about that. I know those of you, can I have a show of hands of the people that heard about the Coastal Plain League, wanting to locate here, wanting to bring a team here? Okay. They want to lease, they only need that space. Their baseball season runs from mid-May to mid-August. Okay. Beyond that, they want to plan some, special events here and there, but we'll have access to the facility the rest of the time. But what we can do here, and this took about 2 years of planning. Coastal Plain, Pete Bach, who's the president of that organization, he approached the town about the desire to locate a ball team in Holly Springs and asked us if we'd be interested in looking at a stadium. So we took that to council, I guess, two retreats ago. Mr. Bach made a presentation and the council asked us to look into it. So it took us about 2 years to determine, really do an extensive cost-benefit analysis and have a discussion on, what the benefits of such a facility would be. And they're really pretty far-reaching and exciting. What we found was that we got a private group, one of those partners we talked about, the Wake football group, that wants to lease these facilities from us during times that we essentially don't have programs or a need to utilize those facilities. They want to enter into a 10-year deal with the town and pay, I think it's $84,000 a year toward the lease of those facilities. Coastal Plain League, similarly, they would use this facility about 25% of the time. They've entered into an annual lease with the town of about $85,000 a year. What's neat about this is this Wake football group has also committed to having 4 regional soccer tournaments, which would bring a lot of teams, a lot of kids, a lot of families to the Holly Springs area, particularly on the weekends. So they can, on weekends when we don't have those fields used, they can use those fields. They can rent this field, which they don't currently have an agreement for, and also they would need to rent potentially those fields at Womble, because these soccer tournaments, it's my understanding, they bring in, over 100 teams. The numbers are really strong for those types of events. We did an economic impact analysis because we thought that would be important to understand. We understand the recreational benefits, but we needed to quantify what the economic benefits of this project would be and all the activities that we have planned. We talked about Coastal Plain League. We talked about the soccer tournaments. What we haven't necessarily talked about is this will be a great venue for some concerts. Right now we have a number of music acts, but they're more or less confined to this area here, which is pretty small in terms of its seating capacity. This particular stadium will be able to seat comfortably 1,800 people, and also the way it's going to be designed, we could probably have standing room only of up to 3,000 people. So that opens the door for us to host a number of concert events that we previously were unable to do. It's really a transformative project for Holly Springs. So bottom line, what kind of economic impact does this have on our community? We had 919 Marketing, which is a local-based business in Holly Springs, to look at the impact of Coastal Plain League, the impact of these soccer and these other events that we're talking about. Using I'm bouncing around a little bit, but sort of bear with me. The Greater Raleigh Convention and Visitors Bureau, they have a formula that's established to determine what the economic impact of these types of sports events and activities, what kind of impact they can have on the community. We use their numbers. I mean, they've got a lot more experience than we do. So we felt really comfortable using their numbers, and that's very important because it can also help us, and we can talk in a few minutes about the potential for some grant monies. Using their numbers, we found that this will have an economic impact of $6.8 million per year, direct economic benefit to the town of Holly Springs and to the businesses. So we're very excited about that. So we talked about the recreation benefit of this project, also the economic benefit, and then the social benefit. This is a neat social gathering place. I mean, I think a lot of people are just excited about the prospect of being able to go out during the summer and just catch a baseball game, or catch a concert on the weekend, and go to the concert, and you're gonna meet a lot of folks that It's really a great social gathering hub. So we're very excited about that. There are some future phases that we talked about or that we've looked at that are included in a master plan for the facility. We don't have funding for those yet. One is a community center right here, which could be an indoor gym, maybe a convocation center type design We're just not there yet. We don't have the funding. And then then also right here, this smaller field could be designed. It'd be about the size of a soccer or a softball field, collegiate women's softball field, that could also be used for some of our youth baseball and softball programs, as well as a miracle field. Once again, we don't have funding for that yet, but that's just called for on the master plan. You think did I forget anything on that? Yes, sir.
I have a question. When are they going to do a sidewalk on Main Street connecting the towns so people that live close by could walk to events versus driving?
That's an excellent question. We've had discussions internally, and that's actually one of our recommendations going to the council, is that needs to be one of our top sidewalk projects, because now that we got this in, this park here, we want people to get to it, and we'd love for them to get to it without having to drive. So that's a great question, Ken. Let's talk just a little bit. I was getting ready to leave that, but I did think of something else. The north side of town's not seen a lot of investment over the last 10 years or so, not a lot of activity. But since we've announced our plans to do this project right here, we've already been contacted 2 times by Marriott on 2 different occasions, a Marriott hotel group. They're looking at locating a hotel right around here. We've also got an area property owner that had plans to develop property just across the street from this project, and he was looking at some townhomes or some type of apartment type complex. Once he realized that we had these plans in place, now he's master planning that for hotel and restaurants. So I think, the more we talk about this, the more folks recognize what impact this is going to have on our community from an economic development standpoint. This really transforming this particular section of town. So it's really something we're excited about. Yes, sir.
2 quick questions. Just so I can get a better perspective on this and maybe explain some more. Can you kind of landmark me where that is, where on North Main Street it is, what that crossroad is?
Yeah, Trellis Point Apartments, I believe, are right here.
I'm sorry?
Trellis Point Apartments are right here. I think this ties into Bridgewater. Is this Bridgewater subdivision? Yeah, subdivision. Now, right across here is where the 2nd phase of the Holly Springs Town Center is going.
What kind of traffic analysis have you done? We're talking some serious numbers potentially coming in and out of that stadium.
Yeah, we're good on that. I'm looking up here at our engineering director. We have done the analysis on that. Okay. One thing that we're looking at doing as part of that is we're going to have a connector road that's going in. It'll connect Main Street to the bypass. Because we're going to have folks coming from the north as well. Also, there's some widening associated with this particular street. So yes, it's being designed to accommodate the additional traffic. Yes. Now, sort of switching gears, getting back to the day-to-day stuff. The more as we've continued to grow as a town, the demands on the police department, all public safety, really all of our departments has increased, and we've had to, as a result, increase our staffing and so forth. We thought it'd be a good idea just to share with you give you some visuals of what our current police station looks like on the inside. It's next door to the town hall. It's about a 3,500 square foot, that's our usable space, 2-story building. It used to be the old auto parts building on Valentine Street, and I think prior to that it might have been a drugstore at some point in time years ago. What? I knew it used to be auto parts in 2001 when I got here. So a couple years ago at one of our retreats, the town council advised us they understood the need. It goes back to that investment piece. They understood the need that we needed to invest in a facility due to the growth of the police department, and so we are looking at a law enforcement center. This is Holly Springs Road. This is Bass Lake Road. Vantage Bank is right here, and the Goddard School is right here. We purchased this property. It's about 3 acres of land. It was bought in a foreclosure, so we really got a pretty good price on it. That particular development or developer didn't make it, so we purchased this property for the law enforcement center. And here's just some quick stats on what it will involve. We've had a space needs analysis done by Stewart Cooper Newell. They specialize in designing police departments. It'd be about a 28,000 square foot facility. And this data right here is really helpful, I think, because it sort of shows where we were in 2004 when we moved into the existing facility. We had 22 officers. Fast forward to today, we got 60. When we moved in there, each of them had an average of about 227 square feet per officer, which is actually below what the International Association of Chiefs of Police would recommend. They're recommending this much square footage. This is actually what we got. We got about 83 square feet per square foot. Not a lot of space. The new law enforcement center, if it's built to the size that the space needs analysis is recommended, we'd initially have about 470 square feet per officer, but you know, as it's been pointed out to me, we're building for the future, just like we built the town hall. In 2025, based on our projected population growth and the projected growth in the number of officers, they'll be down to about 352 square feet per officer, which is more manageable and much more reasonable. One of the neat things too about this particular facility is the police department, due to the nature of the work that they do, they have a lot of special areas where they have to be specially designed, which is totally different than what you would for a facility like this or town hall. This new facility is going to be designed with that in mind. Okay, this is one of our really neat projects. This definitely falls into the investment category, also our innovation category. Our fiber optic project, we actually had a table set up out there. I don't know if any of you had a chance to look at that closely, but we'll be able to install fiber to connect all of the town's facilities, which will enable us to get far more bandwidth than we currently are able to get through our. I guess we're currently a Time Warner customer, and we'll be able to pay for this project. It's about $1.5 million project. We'll be able to pay for that. It'll cash flow itself based on the savings associated with providing internet service ourselves and tying to NC REN as opposed to Time Warner Cable. So we're really excited about that. It also gives us some opportunities to, this is the business park area. We've got two town facilities, the Public Works facility and also our water reclamation facility that we need to connect to. But that fiber will be run throughout the business park. We'll have the ability to lease some of our fiber to a third party. They can in turn sell that to some of the businesses in the business park. Based on the feedback that our economic development folks get, this is badly needed. They need that additional bandwidth, that additional service. And in long term, we would like to see sort of visioning. We'd like to see, it enhances our ability to go wireless in larger sections of our community, particularly our downtown area. Speaking of downtown, we did want to, downtown is an example of, there's a lot of things we've done in Holly Springs that have yielded results. I think of healthcare. I think in 2001, when I got here, I remember Jenny and Carl Dean, our manager, sitting down, and I happened to be in a few of those meetings, and there was this great focus to get healthcare, bring healthcare to our residents in Holly Springs. I think at the time we had one doctor in town. It might have been Dr. Sivaraj. It took us years. I know our mayor's been a key advocate of bringing health care to the town as well as all of our council members, quite frankly. It's taken us years to get to where we're at, but we do have things to show for it. We have Rex Urgent Care now. They have a CON for 50 beds for a hospital eventually, and there's a slide on that. We've been able to see some results. In 2001, we also had a study done to determine what type of economic development the town was best suited to accommodate or to attract. It was determined in 2001. We had a little less than 10,000 people. We were 90% residential. But they said, due to your workforce and due to your geographic location, you guys could accommodate a biopharmaceutical manufacturing type facility. A lot of folks thought we were, off of our rockers, but we believed in that, and we were able, fortunately, to see some great results with the location of DeBartis. We've also been working on developing downtown for about 12 years as well. And we do have some results. They're maybe not quite as great as the two examples I just used, but we're still committed to developing our downtown, so we wanted to talk a little bit about that. We have had some unprecedented interest, I would say, over the last 10 years in doing things downtown, and we wanted to talk a little bit about that. We have the Mosaic on Main, which is slated to go on the side of where the former police station and fire station used to be in town, right on Main Street. Are y'all familiar with where that is? Okay. We worked out a deal with, we did a land swap with Bateman Surveying right here. Where I think the second oldest home in Holly Springs is. We got access to that facility, and in exchange for that, this is a 31,000 square foot facility that can be leased out. So that's an example of some investment in the area. Also, Holly Springs Nano Brewery, they are planning to locate in the old Fidelity building downtown. And then when you go to certainly the Omni Business Park, you got Dragonfly Health and Fitness, Bombshell Beer Company, a microbrewery. They're locating there. They're actually doing some upfits right now, so they're close to going to production. And then Triangle Elite All-Stars also in this particular area. The town's done a lot of investment in our downtown because we believe in order to convince others to invest in downtown, we need to step up too, because we believe in what the vision can be. I'd ask Stephanie if she would. I was just curious. I'm a numbers guy. I like to know just how much sidewalk we put in the town of Holly Springs just in the last 5 years. We put in 6 miles of sidewalk. Most of that is right in our downtown area. We spent about $2.2 million in sidewalk improvements investing downtown. About half of that came from grants. So that was something that I thought was really interesting. So we put in the sidewalk along South Main. We've installed sidewalk up to Food Line along North Main. I know we did some sidewalk here to connect to the sidewalk on Holly Springs Road around Raleigh Street. We're planning to put in a permanent sidewalk walk down along Avent Ferry Road. When you get a little bit out of town, we installed a temporary sidewalk along Avent Ferry Road that's asphalt. And you may ask, why temporary? Well, we believe that eventually we're going to be able to widen Avent Ferry Road, and it's just far more expensive to install a concrete sidewalk. But we wanted to address that because we knew there was a need for a sidewalk, so we got the temporary sidewalk in place at that particular location. One of the things we found out too when we were investigating what we needed to do to make downtown more attractive for development, we found out there's a lot of small lots that needed to be assembled, and that due to the nature of development that generally occurs in your downtown area, it's really much smaller footprint, and typically developers want to maximize the utilization of their land. With these new stormwater regulations that have come down over the last 10 years by the federal government and state government, we found that one of the best things we could do would be to invest in some regional stormwater infrastructure downtown, which is what we have right here. You probably heard it, you might have, if you've been attending or watching any of the council meetings, the MIMS BMP. So we've looked at doing something with our developer, partnering with him to jointly fund this particular improvement. This would drain not only his property, but also the property across the street, which would make it very attractive for development. But better just than that, it's really going to become, it's not just a facility to handle stormwater. Yes, it does do that. Yes, it's good for the environment, but it's also going to become an amenity to our downtown because it's going to be designed to attract people and give folks a reason to come down, and it's going to be a little walking park. I mean, I think it's part of that vision. We wanted to create sort of a sense of place and give people another reason to come downtown, and we feel like this could possibly do that. One thing that's not on here, yes it is, it's right in the middle, I was looking all around, is our farmers market. Our planning staff has done I was looking all over for it because I knew I wanted to mention that. They've done a tremendous job over the years, committed a lot of time to making that a real success. Once again, the idea was we need to bring people downtown. And on Saturdays, it's really a pretty cool hub of activity due to that particular event. All right, Holly Springs Town Center moving along. We got plans in, I believe, or they're coming if we haven't gotten them, for the Phase 2 opening. It's slated for late summer 2015. Frank Theaters, bowling alley. I know we get more questions about when are the theaters and bowling alley are coming than we ever did about Target. I mean, everyone loves that idea. We also have some junior anchors, Bed Bath & Beyond, DSW Shoes, and also there are 4 out parcels that the developer has informed us that there's a great deal of interest from sit-down restaurants in locating there. They want to be close to that theater, so we really anticipate this being a really happening place pretty shortly. Once those theaters are in place, there's going to be a great deal of interest in. So we'll have more dining opportunities in Holly Springs. This is right across the street, to your question, from the North Main Athletic Complex is right here. So you'll be able to shoot right across the street. You've got to go through the super streets, but you can get there. You can get there from here. Okay, we touched on healthcare just a little bit. This is the existing Rex Urgent Care. They do have a CON for 50 beds for a hospital here. And I know my understanding is that's went to the Court of Appeals this particular week, I understand, yesterday. So it is our hope that this will finally be resolved, at least on the legal side of things. There's only one, I guess, opponent to Rex Hospital locating here, and that's Novant Healthcare. They're wanting to build a hospital here. So one way or the other, Holly Springs is going to finally get what it needs. Our community, we're going to have health care. We're going to have a hospital. Yes, sir.
Just a quick update. I talked to Rex today. The appeal was processed yesterday by Novant. It's the only appeal that's left on this with Rex. And the unfortunate answer to the question is we will know in about 3 months which one is going to build a hospital. It will take them 3 months to go through this process, which I think is ridiculous. But hopefully in 3 months, it will either be Novant or Rex. We need a hospital. Bad. Period. End state.
Yes. Good update. Okay. That's moving quick for a hospital, for health care. I mean, it's just moved at a snail's pace. All right, and we touched on Novartis. Novartis is the 5th largest taxpayer now in Wake County, and it's really it's probably our largest private employer, certainly our largest tax base in town. They've been a great addition to our town. They've probably done as much to change the image of our town from a residential community to an up and coming, evolving, diverse community. They've done as much for that as anything. So we like to show that. They've only developed a little less than half of the land that they have there, and they're constantly looking at upgrades and investments and expansion. That's an expansion type industry. So we expect more good news coming from Novartis certainly in the future, and they've been a great supporter of the town. And I won't go through all this, but this is just some of the recognition when we talk about the image of the town over the years that we've been able to receive. Maybe I will go over some. We've got the number one place to raise kids. I think was one of our more recent designations, which we're really proud of. Got the number one small farmers market in North Carolina. For 8 years, we've received a certificate of achievement of excellence for our financial reporting for the town, and that's kudos to our finance department for that, for great work. And back in 2009, it doesn't seem like that long ago, we were included again among America's top 100 places to live. So I don't think that's a secret to any of you that live here. You know it's a great place. Those of us that live here love it here. I think every day when I go to work, I'm motivated to try to, in some small way, to make it a little better place. Any questions? I ran over what I was afraid I would, but when I get to talking, I usually don't shut up, so sorry. No more questions? You guys are beat? Okay. All right, well, thanks to the staff. Once again, you guys done an awesome job getting everything set up outside. You guys, you seemed excited to do this. This is something we do about every 2 years. We like to do this. I think it seemed like, I don't know, it was either the mayor's idea a few years ago to maybe do this following a retreat, or it was, you'll take credit, either that or Mr. Dean. But I do know we were talking outside, some of the staff members. Carl always loved to do these because he always loved to get the information out, because we're doing so many positive things in the community, and this is part of our effort to get the information out to you. If you have any specific questions on projects that you might think of, we'll be out in the lobby, and we're available for for questions if you don't have any that you want to ask currently. So thanks a lot. Thanks for coming out and taking your time.